Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and before anybody asks, no, I'm actually not on the run right now. I don't have a warrant out or anything. This is a different location that I'm in, and that's because I've moved. Now before we start off with, if you do kind of hear a slight echo, I'm sorry, alright? Unfortunately, I don't have everything completely ready yet. Now if you wanted to see what my setup looked like 24 hours ago, it pretty much looked like the filthiest, neck beard nest you could ever imagine. But of course, the further I moved in, I made a little cave in the corner, kind of like Courage the Cowardly Dog. But of course, right now, I'm kind of alone in this room. I don't even have the G Fuel stacks ready to go. I don't have a lot of things in this place, but slowly I'm working on it. Tomorrow there's going to be a mover, electrician, and a few people that I have to take care of. But to understand, all right, I'm in the middle of this move, and this is what it's going to be like for the next couple days until I get lights and everything. Now, this video is brought to you by an amazing community called Some Ordinary Gamers. You guys are always out there watching an extra step to cover my back when I'm making a dumb mistake. The dumb mistake in question is me possibly doxing myself. Now, from time and time again, to give you complete context of this, I would say years ago, I did live streaming, and I first started streaming here really on YouTube when I switched over from Twitch TV. Now back then, this live stream was about me ripping on old retro game prices. You know when Tommy finds a PS1 game and he's like, shit, let's see, Metal Gear Solid 1 on the PlayStation? Fuck it! $20,000! And I'm there laughing at it because ain't nobody gonna pay 20 grand for Metal Gear Solid 1. It's just not happening. Now, of course, in that entire scenario, I was on a site known as eBay. Now, because it was on eBay and I was like signed into the account, I clicked on one page, like the listing page, and it took me to basically my address being blasted up on the entire screen. Now, this was to I want to say a few hundred people at the time, and everyone was really cool about it. I think there was maybe like one person posting, hey guys, you see the address? Oh boy, I hope that address doesn't go anywhere. And they were just like leaking it out in chat. And everyone in the chat was like, brother, my brother in Christ, are you brain dead? All right, and that was pretty much how the whole cookie crumbled. That's how it all ended. And that's pretty much where it was at the end of that. Now, ever since then, I've been real careful anytime my addresses or anything gets leaked out. Sometimes I do tend to fail on some of these scenarios, and in that case, the community comes in, and usually with YouTube, I can apply blurs and fixes to videos, and they'll be there and, crisis averted. Now, luckily, in this case, I can gladly say I did not dox myself. Now, any address that I have shown you is an address that has been pretty old. I've been moving around a couple times. I know that last year I moved, and this year I moved too. To understand, moving is kind of like an investment thing. I'm not really like, a YouTuber that really needs to have Lamborghinis and $2,000 Gucci shirts. I think anybody that buys expensive crap like that is trying to compensate for some shit. I follow the Asmongold approach. Just invest most of my money and live a pretty humble lifestyle. Honestly, the most expensive shit that I actually own is probably the RTX 4090 that I just bought, which isn't really buying anything for the fun of it. I'm actually using it to make a video. I'm trying to make, a new dream. I'm trying to upgrade bisexual Billy to kindergarten Kenny, who learned how to share his graphic card between 32 virtual machines. That's going to be a fun video next week. Hopefully we can get it done by then. Now, that being said, though, anytime that I have showcased an address, thankfully it has been an older address. Now, again, I have to preface and say this because it is an older place. And generally, I want to make that update because, there are some people who like to do shenanigans with addresses. And especially when you don't belong to places, I do have to remind you, any type of shenanigan can be very illegal depending on what you do. Now, generally, when it comes to things like swatting, I've never been worried. Just to really open up and tell you something, I have had people call, wellness checks, where they've gotten, police involved. I wouldn't really say it's swatting. There wasn't, the RCMP busting into my house with, assault rifles and shit. But I've had wellness checks, and this is from people that I know did not have any address on file. See, all they did, I'm pretty sure, was call the cops and tell them something crazy. And of course, the cops probably looked through driving records, like driver's license records, because, when you have a driver's license, when you're driving vehicles, you have to have up-to-date addresses. And you have to have them where you actually live, right? Otherwise, it can be highly fucking illegal, and you can get, fined pretty heavily. I'm pretty sure they can suspend your licenses in Canada for it. And that's pretty much how it happens. So when it comes to things like personal information, doxing, swatting, it's something that I do worry about, but I have to have like I have to cut back a little bit from the worry and paranoia, because if you are completely paranoid in these situations, it can absolutely consume and ruin everything for you. So again, I try to be as careful as I can, and generally when it comes to making videos on the internet and showing my screen, sometimes mistakes do tend to happen. And that's something I wanted to talk about too. Now, of course, when it comes to things like addresses and locations, when you type in IP addresses or just Google anything, like for instance, let me Google Sonic the Hedge, or actually Silent Hill, all right? That's going to be pretty relevant today, all right? Hopefully, I hope to God Konami doesn't shaft us, but in the off event that they do, and they probably will, let's actually go down and see what's going here, okay? Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you actually look at it, Google is basically giving away my address or general location just at the bottom of this page. Now, it used to be at least sometime, I can confirm at least in my experience a year ago, it used to be giving postal codes. And this is how one of my postal codes ended up being leaked. Now, postal codes are not an exact address in Canada. They're kind of like zip codes in the United States, or whatever the equivalent is for the rest of the world. But when it comes to zip codes and postal codes, they can be pretty granular depending on where you're looking into. And generally, it can pretty much dox where you generally are in the grand scheme of things, which is not good. Now, of course, it basically means that every time I cover stuff on the internet, I have to be like super vigilant anytime when I'm on these pages to make sure that I'm not leaking information that I don't want to. Now, obviously, it says my information is type A. And the reality of it is that I always use a virtual private network, a VPN, Muda VPN. If you remember back when I actually made my own VPN service through like Google Cloud or cloud services, I use this all the time just so I can obfuscate my IP address. Look, I'm going to kind of quasi-dox myself. I don't actually live in Toronto, the city, okay? I live out of it. To quasi-dox myself, I'm more of a Niagara Falls enjoyer, okay? I guess that's kind of like, listen, it's a pretty big area, okay? All right, if somebody's going to find me, they probably will, and they were probably going to do from the start. I don't live in Toronto personally because of sky-high property prices. You know, at the end of the day, I want to live in an actual place that I can be proud of versus a goddamn coffin. You know, people in New York City, people in Toronto, people in Los Angeles literally live in fucking bunkers, like closets, just so that they can say, hey, boys, I live in the city. You know, I remember this one TikTok a while back that made me actually laugh my ass off. And if you actually remember, this was a TikTok that I think Charlie covered and a few other people, where it was like the $1.95 million house in Toronto, where it was like an 8-foot wide, like literally 2 trailers on top. And of course, you can see that it is absolutely one of the most embarrassing things, okay? Like, if you're going to buy this for nearly $2 million, I mean, there's a problem with you, okay? Like, this is not a crazy good view, okay? Looks like a shithole. And just to really, you know, like just to really stick the knife in deeper, you've got a goddamn toilet in the bedroom. I mean, if you want to talk about a real crappy place to live for overpriced, this is it. Now, of course, just to add further context, this house is like 10 minutes away from the Eaton Center, which is kind of like Toronto's version of like New York City. Off-brand like Shibuya Crossing or Times Square, okay? That's pretty much what it is. So, of course, I don't live in the city or generally in that greater Toronto area anymore, simply because property values are super insane. Ain't nobody paying $2 million to live in a goddamn crack den, guys. Ain't nobody paying millions of dollars to live in a crap hole. I'm not saying that Niagara Falls houses are any cheaper, but at least they look like goddamn houses, okay? Not like fucking coffins. I'm sure people will say, but Muda, you live in the city. You're close to everything. Look, man, like I said in the beginning, all right? I'm a pretty normal guy, all right? I'm like Asmongold. I don't buy Lamborghinis. I don't buy $2,000 shirts. The most expensive thing I have is my goddamn gaming computer, and I'm proud of this, okay? This is my dream system. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Live a very simple life, live well below your means, and I promise you, you'll be way happier in life, okay? Materialism is bad, but I guess I'm getting messages like sort of mixed up here. To get back to topic over here, when it comes to doxing, it also doesn't scare me at all too, because I'm somebody that's basically been bred off the internet anyways. Look, if you want a quick history lesson, there was a guy known by, there was an actor known as Shia LaBeouf, still pretty big, still pretty popular. But back during like the 2016 election, like I think this is shortly before Trump got elected, there was a lot of internet like, I would say that was like the start of like internet culture war stuff, like pretty heavily. And he did a stream where it was like, he will not divide us. A set of streams, if you will, right? Now, long story short, there's a whole lot of history and lore regarding this, but to understand, he basically stuck a flag in like the most remote part of like an area. So for instance, right, like if you open up this image, right, like this should not be able to tell you where the flag is located, right? So what happened was, believe it or not, 4chan, yes, the internet image board that they are, actually looked at this flag and they started looking at everything. They looked at star constellations. They looked at, fucking aircraft patterns, like the literal like aerial like routes. They looked at a whole bunch of things and they were able to triangulate in a faster record than what the Central Intelligence Agency, the FBI, the DEA, or every goddamn letter agency in the United States was able to do. Yeah, a bunch of image board enthusiasts chucking pizza in their mouths were more efficient than goddamn intelligence agencies in finding this dude's flag just to troll the individual. And I swear after this moment, I pretty much sat back, relaxed, and realized if somebody wants to find you, they'll find you. But in this case, one of the addresses that did get leaked out was one that was quite old. And ever since then, I've actually moved. I'm actually in the middle of a move right now. And hopefully things are getting back on track. There's going to be more content every day. I know I missed a few days, and that's because I was just out seeing some friends, Ryan, Nexpo, personal stuff, taking care of personal relationships and everything. That was something I took a weekend out to just sort of relax and clear the head. But I got some bangers coming out to finish this month, especially a new virtual machine video, which I'm proud to. I know it's not my most popular content, but it's the content that I absolutely love to make. And anytime I can make something fun with computers, you bet that I'm going to. I've also got another video too regarding G4 television, because as you all know, that nuke set off pretty recently. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mutahar, and if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Just like to dislike it. Just wanted to talk about something that happened recently. And yeah, I'm out.